All right, if you're joining us, we are just hopping into a series in Esther. We are in chapter 5, and here's your 10-second recap. These are the characters. King Ahasuerus is in Persia. He's the most powerful man in the world at this time, and his right-hand man is a man by the name of Haman, and Haman is second to command, and the decree's been made that everyone needs to bow down to Haman. When Haman walks past, you need to acknowledge him by bowing down. And a man by the name of Mordecai, a Jew, has refused to do that. And Haman's wrath has exploded, not just against Mordecai, but against all Jews. He's issued a decree with the king's support that all Jews need to be exterminated. And so there's been a day set where a genocide will be unleashed on all Jews in all of Persia, which means all of the Jews are supposed to be killed. Mordecai has asked for help from his cousin, who just happens to be the queen. If you remember her, the root of her name, the root of Esther in Hebrew is translated as to hide or hidden. The king doesn't know that his own bride, his own queen, his own wife is in fact a Jew. And so Mordecai has appealed to Esther. You need to go to the king and ask him to spare us. The challenge is, if Esther approaches the queen when she hasn't been summoned, she could be killed. And so she's been hesitant to do it, but she's just said that she will. And so they've gathered all the Jews together in Susa to fast for 3 days, and at the end of those 3 days, Esther will go and speak to the king, and that's where we pick up right now. It says this: On the third day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the king's palace in front of the king's quarters, while the king was sitting on his royal throne inside the throne room opposite the entrance to the palace. The time has come. And so Esther goes forward. Church, it's time. Would you say that with me? It's okay, say it to somebody like you really mean it. Okay, turn. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Church, it's time. And that's kind of where we're focusing this morning, that it is in fact time. It's time for Esther to go forward and risk everything. And so she's been fasting, most likely praying at the same time, and she's decided it's time. And so she goes and stands in the throne room, which means risking her life, because if the king doesn't want her there, he can have her executed on the spot. Not only has Queen Esther been waiting for the right time, she's also chosen the right clothes. This is not significant in any other spot of the Bible I can think of, except for this one, where it tells us, oh, she wore this outfit. Her outfits have not been mentioned at all in other places, but I think that the queen has thought about the right timing, and then also, what should I wear to this? She's stepped into this great big throne room. He's at one end, and she wants him to know immediately that's the queen. So she puts on her royal clothes, her royal robes, whatever that would look like. Maybe there's a crown on her head, I'm not sure. But right away, she wants him to look and see, hey, that's my bride. That's the queen that I married. That's the woman I love, but I haven't seen her for 30 days, we were told in the last chapter. And so that's what she does. She summons up her courage, puts on her royal robes, and steps into the throne room and waits to see what his decision will be. It says this: When the king saw Queen Esther standing in the court, she won favor in his sight, and he held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand. Then Esther approached and touched the tip of the scepter. And the king said to her, What is it, Queen Esther? What is your request? It shall be given you, even to the half of my kingdom. So the king sees Queen Esther and has favor on her and extends the golden scepter to her, which means, come on in. You've been received. You're welcomed here. He has favor on her immediately. Husbands, you maybe have a similar format in your house. The wife can't approach you and tell you, point out the royal scepter. I'm guessing it's not like that. But here we kind of see again this imbalance, this injustice, where the king has all this authority, even over the queen, that she has to be welcomed in. And it's a dangerous thing even for her to do that. He says this to her: What's your request? Up to half the kingdom. He said, that's just a saying, okay? He's not really going to just offer her half of the kingdom, but it means, I'm in a good mood. Ask what you want. I'm happy to see you. Go ahead and make your request to her. And so now it's time, right? She wore the right clothes. She waited for the right time. She even says the right words, if it please the king, right? If you're okay with this idea, okay, go ahead. If it please the king, now she's going to pop the big question. Let me read what she says. If it please the king, let the king and Haman come today to a feast that I have prepared for the king. Hold on. That's not the question, is it? That's not what we've been waiting for. That's not why Mordecai has pleaded with her. Go to the king. Ask him for a lunch. That's not it. We're waiting for her to ask for the king to change his mind, to rescue the Jewish people. Instead, she invites him to a dinner party. Not just the king, Who else? Did you catch that? Haman. Why Haman? Haman's the bad guy. Is she going to spit in his potato salad? Like, what's the plan here? Pie him in the face? Why does she invite the bad guy? So now she's invited the king and her mortal enemy, the one who's actually issued for her to be killed, to a lunch. It seems like a very strange plan at this time. I think it's also a good plan. Because what do we know that the king likes to do more than anything else? Eat and drink. He loves a good party, loves a good feast. King, I'd like you and your best friend Haman, I'd like to throw a party for you. Whoa, I'm in, right? The way to any man's heart. Sorry, there'll be what? KFC? I'm in. Let's do this. And so I imagine as he comes to this, that all of his favorite foods have been perfectly prepared. The room smells good. All the best dishes are out. Everything, the lighting is perfect. That she's just coordinated everything because now it's time. I want to read this. It says this in verse 5. Then the king said, bring Haman quickly so that we may do as Esther has asked. So the king and Haman came to the feast that Esther had prepared. See how quickly he jumps at that? Yes. Lunch? Yes. Let's do this. Get Haman right away. Let's go and have something to eat. In verse 6 it says, and as they were drinking wine after the feast, the king said to Esther, what is your wish? It shall be granted. And what is your request? Even to the half of my kingdom, it shall be fulfilled. Now seems like the absolutely perfect time, right? The king's happy. He's been drinking maybe something nice like baby duck or royal red, right? He's halfway through the box of it, right? I mean, this is good stuff. This is the right time, the right clothes, the right setting, the right meal. Everything seems perfectly poised for this. Can you imagine how Esther would feel at this lunch that she's prepared? She's sitting there. Across the table is the man who wants to kill her, and at the end of the table is her husband who agreed to it. Right? I mean, they're having a great time. More wine, let's have another drink. And she must just be terrified. It must be a very frightening, unsettling situation for her. And now it's time. Finally, it's time. What is your request? Even to the half of my kingdom, it shall be fulfilled. And this is what she asks. My wish and my request is, if I found favor in the sight of the king, and if it pleases the king to grant my wish and fulfill my request, let the king and Haman come to the feast that I will prepare for them, and tomorrow I'll do as the king has asked. Is Esther chickening out here? Has she become a coward? She raised this courage up. She said that she would do it. Why this stalling? Why this delay? Why is this happening? Meanwhile, Haman is having the best time of his life. This is great. Can you imagine you and you only are invited to dinner with the king and queen? Not just once, twice, back to back. He's having just the best time ever. He leaves that lunch and he's just overjoyed. It says this, Haman went out that day joyful and glad of heart. The roses smelt better. The sun was a little bit brighter. He was high-stepping, smiling. Everything's going his way. He's whistling his favorite song. Right? I mean, it's just good times. Good times. Good times are happening for Haman. Everything's going so well. And then he sees that dirty dog, Mordecai. Oh, I hate that Mordecai. Let me read this part for you. It says this. But when Haman saw Mordecai, this is the guy who won't bow down to him, in the king's gate, that he neither rose nor trembled before him, he was filled with wrath against Mordecai. Why doesn't that guy get up? Why doesn't he bow down to me? Why isn't he afraid? He knows I've issued a decree to have him killed. Oh, I hate that guy. And all the joy, all the rosy red flowers and sunshine in the world can't cheer this guy up. He's so filled with rage again. But he doesn't do it. He wants to kill the guy on the spot, but he does not do it. He has a little bit of patience, a little bit of restraint. And so we're told after that he gets home and he gets his wife and invites his best friends over and throws a party to celebrate himself. Those are good parties, hey? It sounds like a good time. Let me just tell you a bit about this party. Once everyone's there, it says that Haman recounted to them the splendor of his riches, the number of his sons, all the promotions with which the king had honored him, and how he had advanced him above the officials and the servants of the king. Then Haman said, even Queen Esther, let no one but me come with the king to the feast she prepared, and tomorrow also I'm invited by her together with the king. Sounds like a good party, doesn't it? Hey guys, come on over. I got to tell you a bit more about myself. Man, I'm so rich. See all this stuff? I bought this. This is not on credit. I paid cash. I paid gold bullion for this stuff. This is all mine. And did you know I have a lot of sons? Man, I got a big family. That's bragging, hey? This is good times? Okay, and then he says, and did you hear about my promotion? You might have heard about it. I'm second in command. I'm the second most powerful man in the world. You're pretty lucky to be at my house right now, drinking whatever I'm serving you. And let me tell you this, you know who I had lunch with today? Don't worry, I'll tell you, the king and the queen. A lot of people there? No, just me. I'm the only one. I'm so in, I'm so cool. You know what I'm doing tomorrow? Same thing, same time, same place, because they love me. I'm amazing. You enjoying this party? You having a good time with this party? If this is how you party, don't bother inviting me. I don't want to be there, right? This would get thin pretty fast, but he's so excited about himself. But then let me read for you what he says next. Yet all this is worth nothing to me, so long as I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate. I've got it all. You guys, I have got it all, and it's meaningless. I don't care. I don't care about the promotion. I don't care about the wealth. I don't care about my family. I don't care that I'm dinner with king and queen day after day because of this guy that I hate. Let me ask you this question. What brings joy to you? What's something that just fills you up with joy in your life? I want to give you just 20 seconds right now. Turn and just share with something that brings you joy. Go ahead. You look happier. You look happier just thinking about those things, just talking about those things that bring you joy. Some of you were half asleep. Now you're awake and you're smiling. Okay? We have all these great things, and these things bring us joy. Here's another question. Why don't you think about those things all the time? How much time do you spend thinking about all those good things versus how much time do you spend thinking about the things that steal your joy? I find that there's an imbalance in my life and in a lot of other people's life. We get fixated on the one thing, the one person, the one situation, the one reason we have to be discouraged, frustrated, annoyed, agitated, and we dwell on that thing until it's the only thing we can see in front of our face. Forget all these other things. Haman says, all that's meaningless because of this one guy. God has blessed you in so many ways. So many ways. Do you focus on that, or do you focus on the one situation that is agitating you? I think we spend way too much time on that thing that agitates us, the one thing that isn't quite right, the one thing that we still want. It makes me think, none of the children in this room would be like this, but it makes me think of maybe some children right after Christmas, right? And the parents have remortgaged the house to get all the perfect gifts, and they've been up till midnight or 2 a.m. getting all the ornaments just right on the tree, and they've wrapped these presents so perfectly, and the kids rip them open, and then 3 days later they say, hey, can we go to the store because Billy got this and I want one of those? And we go, what? Right, there's steam coming out of our ears and fire in our eyeballs. What does God look like? Well, how does he feel as he looks down on us? We're saying, I don't have this. I want this. I deserve this. And he says, I gave you all this great stuff. I've been so generous. You've been blessed in so many ways. Why do we fixate on that one thing just like Haman did? Thankfully, Haman has a good wife and good friends who give him some good advice. Let me read this for you. Then his wife Zeresh and all his friends said to him, let a gallows 50 cubits high be made, and in the morning tell the king to have Mordecai hanged upon it. Then go joyfully with the king to the feast. This idea pleased Haman, and he had the gallows made. You know what you need to do? Kill this guy and stop worrying about it and go to lunch. Nothing works up an appetite like hanging a guy. Let's do this. Don't wait till tomorrow. I'm going to start that today. This is a good plan, and it is time. Isn't that fascinating? Man, you know what would make me feel better? If I killed that guy. Well, let's do it. Should I stab him? No, don't just stab him. Should I drown him in the river? No, don't just drown him. Hang him right in the middle of the city. Oh, that's a pretty good idea. How high should I hang him from? 20 feet? No. 50 feet? No. 75 feet? Yes. That's what we're going to do. Make a gallows 70. How high do you have to hang somebody from until they die, right? I mean, the 75 feet is super high because he wants everyone to see and everyone to know that this enemy of his is dead. Oh man, that makes me feel good just thinking about it. Whew, I'm getting hungry for lunch too. Isn't that fascinating? There's one thing that he wants. Esther there is patiently fasting and waiting for the right time to save some people. Haman can't wait to kill this guy. I'm going to do this tonight. Let's build those gallows right now. Church, it's time. Say it with me. Time to face your fears, church. It's time to act. It's time to be faithful. It's time to stop excusing your sin. It's time to stop justifying and rationalizing why you do those things that you do. It's time to confess and own up to the failures you've made. It's time to forgive someone instead of carrying that grudge around longer. It's time for you to make the call. It's time for you to reach out. It's time for you to step up. It's time, church, for us to do what we've been called to do. God brought you to this time, this place, this season, this position, this situation for this time, for such a time as this. You know, I think often we want to wait for the perfect time. Oh, it's not quite right. I'm just going to wait till it's a little bit better. I think, I'm not feeling totally comfortable. It should be a little bit easier for me. Point me to the verse in the Bible where it says everything will be perfect and easy for God's people. That verse does not exist. It was not easy for God's people in the Old Testament. It was not easy for Esther. It was not easy for God's people in the New Testament. I mean, pick one of the heroes of the faith. It was not easy for them. Moses, I'm just loving this time in the wilderness. 40 years has been good. Let's march around a little bit more. It was not easy for Moses. It was not easy for King David leading his people and conquering nations. It was not easy for Esther. She thinks she might die at this point. Now she has to confess to the king that she's a Jew and she's been hiding it from him for 8 or so years. I think she's quite worried. I don't think she feels like, oh, this is perfect. This is exactly how I wanted things to unfold. It wasn't easy for a guy like John the Baptist. They chopped his head off. It wasn't easy for Paul. He got shipwrecked and beaten and arrested and then beaten and then arrested and beaten and arrested and shipwrecked a few more times. It wasn't easy for Jesus. You think if it's going to go easy for anybody, it should go easily for Jesus. Everything should go perfect for him. But as soon as he starts preaching, there's people chasing him, pursuing him, lying about him, accusing him, trying to trap him and kill him, and then they eventually do it. Why do we think that for us it will be perfect and simple and easy? Church, it's time for us to do those things. It's time to be the person God is calling you to be. It's time. Let me ask you this. Raise your hand if you know someone about your age who has died. Raise your hand if you can think of somebody younger than you know who has died. Why do you live as though it won't happen to you? Why do we live as, I'm going to live forever. I've got lots of time. I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that situation. I'm going to get to that scenario. I'm going to get to, some of you have been planning to invite someone to Sunday school, and now you're 80 years old and it's too late. Okay? Ursula's very welcoming to people there, but they do not want to sit on the mat on the floor and have a cupcake. Sometimes the time is too late. Sometimes we wait for the perfect time and it never comes, so we just never ever do it. And we excuse ourselves and say, it didn't feel right. It wasn't quite the perfect time, the right time. It didn't seem quite natural or comfortable or easy. Church, it's time. And we keep living as though we've got lots of time in the bank, but you don't know that. Esther's working against the clock because she knows it. She knows how much time is left. You don't. So why do we wait? Why do we put it off? Why do we keep holding on? Why do we keep lying to ourselves and believing it? Oh no, I've got lots of time for that. Like in Ephesians 5, it says this, that we should make the best use of the time because the days are evil. You don't know how long you've got. You don't know if it's going to get better or worse. You should use the time that you have been given today. What are you waiting for? What are you putting off? Like in 2 Corinthians 6, it says this, now is the favorable time. Now is the right time. Behold, it says, now is the day of salvation. Church, it's time. Time to glorify God, time to be faithful, time to reconsider, time to let go, time to make a change, time to experience grace, time to be transformed. In this whole situation, everything has rested on Esther. Esther's her only hope because she's in the perfect position. She's right in the middle. She is Jewish. She can relate to all these people who are about to be killed, and yet she's been living the life of a Persian queen. She is powerless with the Jews, and that there's no way for them to escape except that she's been given this position of power as the queen. She can relate to the pleas and the cries of her people, and yet she knows the wrath behind Haman and what's coming for them. And at this scene, at this moment in the book of Esther, she looks more like Jesus than at any other point. Because Jesus is the one that's perfectly positioned between heaven and earth. Jesus is the one we're told that isn't just a little bit Jew and a little bit Persian, but Jesus is fully God and fully man, we're told. We're told that Esther knows that there's a risk that she might die. We're told that Jesus comes on purpose to die. No one has to convince him or coerce him. Jesus comes because he loves us so much that he puts this plan into action at just the right time. Jesus comes with this perfect plan that he will live perfectly and resist every temptation and never sin, that he'll live perfectly and speak truth the whole way along, and then he'll be lifted up to the perfect position to save us. And as he goes to the cross, that's the fulfillment of the plan, as he dies there for us. Esther risks her life. Jesus gives his life for us. As you think about Esther, she has to wait for the king to extend the golden scepter to her to know if she can be received or not. You don't have to do that with God. You know that the scepter has been extended. You know that grace has been extended to you, not because of a golden scepter, but because of the cross and sacrifice of Jesus. That you're welcome to come to him at any point, at any time, that you're invited into his presence at any time. Hebrews 4 says this, that we can approach the throne of God with confidence to receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. Church, what are you waiting for? It's time. The time has come. The time is now. You need 3 days to fast and pray. Perfect. And then do it. Ask it. Call upon God. Confess your sin. Do whatever the situation is calling for. It's time. What do you need? I love that verse. To approach the throne of God with confidence, to receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. Church, what do you need? It's not more stuff. It's not another thing. It's not another thing to go on your shelf for a little while. It's not another trophy to celebrate all of your accomplishments. What is it that you need? This makes me think of the Wizard of Oz, where they need some things, right? They need some courage. They need some more heart. They need more information or a better brain to call upon. And so they go on this long journey to find it. In the book of Esther, God is hidden. God is hidden just like the wizard in Oz. God's never mentioned in this book, but as you pull back the curtain, you see there he is. There he is orchestrating all these things, making everything come together just perfectly to bring Esther to this point, this position, exactly to this time. One of the questions I always ask when I'm preparing a sermon as I get to the end is this: so what? So what? I can tell you all sorts of things about Esther and the Persian Empire, and I can rattle off some things to you in Greek and Hebrew, a little less in Hebrew, but we can really just have a good time, but so what? Who cares? Why does chapter 5 of Esther matter at all to any of you? You dining with the king and queen soon? No. Harry? Going to visit Harry? He's not really a prince or royalty anymore. He gave it up. He invite you over for dinner? KFC? Baby duck? None of that? Why does any of this matter? It matters. Here's some of the reasons that I think that this matters. God invites us to call upon him anytime, and we don't. So often we don't. God invites you to call on him, and we don't. Jesus died on the cross to mediate for you, and we keep trying to do it on our own. Oh no, Jesus, I got this covered. I can sort this out. I got this figured out. I can be pretty good on my own. Jesus died to be your mediator. And we're trying to do it on our own still. God has blessed us with so much, and we get so fixated on the things that we don't have. And God has given us this time, this day, and so often we're not using it. Church, God invites you to call on him. Would you do it? Jesus has died for you. Would you receive it? God has blessed you. Would you thank him for it? God has given you this time. Would you use it? Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you for your word, and I thank you for a chance to spend some time looking at Esther 5. I thank you that we see things in here so clearly, that you've been orchestrating this, that you've been moving the cast, the characters in this story all along to this point, that you've put Esther in this position for a reason, and it's so clear to us in the book. God, I pray that as we look at our own lives, that we would see the reason that you've put us in the place, the situation, the relationships, the job, the school, the class, the grade, the cul-de-sac, the neighborhood where we are. God, help us to see why you've put us there and then to act. God, I pray for all those things that we've been putting off, that we'd stop it. That we'd call on you, that we trust in you, and then that we would move as your people. And God, I pray that you'd set us free from the lie that things should be perfect and easy for us. And help us to realize that as God's people, that you're perfect, and you'll give us the strength, even when we're uncomfortable, even when the situation and the timing doesn't seem perfect. And God, I pray that you'd be with us in the decisions that we've made in the past that were wrong. Esther at first decided not to go, to not try and rescue her people, but then she has a change of heart. God, I pray that you would change us where we've excused our sin, where we've made things okay, where we've rationalized and justified in our own minds. God, I pray that you'd help us to look at all the things, the enormous wealth, the blessings that you've poured into our lives, and to be thankful for that and to be generous with that instead of hoarding it all and expecting more. God, I give you thanks for our school. God, I give you thanks that you've given us a faithful principal for these past 4 years and that you've now called a new person to be the principal of our school. I pray that you would bless Patty in that you would just give her incredible wisdom and discernment as she leads. We thank you for the partnership we've had with Surrey Christian and ask that it would continue to grow and flourish. And God, we thank you for the manor up on the hill. We thank you for the leadership there and for the people that call that place home and for those who care for them. We ask you'd continue to watch over them and protect them. And God, we pray for this congregation. We pray that we would be people who know the signs of the times and that we would be people who are faithful to act. God, we thank you for the rest of the churches around us who are faithfully serving you. We thank you for the coldest night of the year event that happened last night, raising food to feed people who are hungry. God, I thank you that we're part of that. Lord, for everything else in our hearts and minds, we commit all those things, trusting in you, trusting that you love us, trusting that you forgive us, trusting that you've claimed us as your own through Jesus, trusting that you've filled us with your Holy Spirit so that we can know your will and walk in your ways. So we commit all these things to you, trusting in Jesus, who taught us to pray, Our Father, who art